Before we turn off the lights, let's get one thing understood. If you plan to make love to me, you got to do it good. Cause I'm a hell of a woman, and for me it takes a hell of a man. So don't you dare turn off the lights unless this you understand. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Well,
Wow,
going
wow,
back
wow,
into
wow.
the 90s, baby.
You're taking it back. Taking it all the way back.
Take it all the way back. Bring it back, baby. Bring it back. Oh, hey, everybody. So good to see you. Welcome to the Sabby and Jaybe show live on RBN Network. It's so good to see you here. I'd like to give you all of you a warm welcome. Remind you that the Sabby and Jaybe show streams every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch my homie Sabby on Fridays for the Sabby show on RBN at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and her channel on Sabby Sabs at 8. Then you can catch me on Sundays at 1 p.m. on the JV show on RBN. Yeah. Hey, did y'all click the thumbs up? Did y'all click the like button? Y'all better have.
I hope so, guys.
I'm watching you. All right. And also, if you haven't been subbed yet, why? We're good peoples. We're trying to look out for you. And also click that notification bell and sign up for our mailing list so you know whenever we go live, because that's the way you do it. Anywho, my sister, my hostess with the mostest, Sabby Sabs, what's going on? Good to see you.
What's going on, JB? I'm excited for this discussion.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. I don't even have tea today. I got root beer.
I have water.
Water?
Yeah.
That's good. It's hydrating.
I had a strong green tea earlier, so no more tea for tonight. Unless I have decaf tea.
Said, okay. All right. Before we get into that, just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Yeah, I'm high. Not high, but I'm energized today. Oh, by the way, before we start anything, happy birthday to my nephew Tyler. Happy birthday. Uncle James loves you. Mwah, mwah. All right. Randy Bray says hi. Hi to you, as Randy. All right. Good to see you. Mia says hello. Hello to you, Mia. So good to see you. We have Bryce in the house saying JB and Sabby. Yes. All right. Venetia saying duet. Oh, we could probably do that song by Atlantic Star, Always.
Oh boy, I can't hit those notes, JB.
I think you can. I have faith in you.
How does the song go again? You have to remind me.
You are to me all that a woman should be, and I can't escape my. Wait.
For always.
And then the woman comes in. Your love's like yours real. You must have been saved from up above. I forgot how it goes.
Yeah, I told you I can't hit those notes.
You can. I've heard you before. I got faith in the Sabsters. I got faith.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And if you can't make it, then we'll do just like MC Hammer said. That's why we pray. Pray.
We got to pray to make it today.
Oh Lord, what did y'all walk into? Y'all walk into the chat and y'all like, what in the hell? I love it. All right, we got Notori Lee in the chat. So good to see you. Brother John Kemper, aka Blue Marvel, is in the chat. I hope you looked up who Blue Marvel is, because he is awesome. I'm gonna start calling you Blue Marvel from now on. Blue Marvel's he's powerful. Oh, he is so powerful. You great character. Mia, is the poll question missing a part? No, it's a true or false question.
I'm gonna take the poll.
Yep, take the poll. All right, we have Robin Ryan is also in the chat today. So good to see you. Gamer and Ganja for life. Oh, 07. We got to make sure we say it. Put some respect on their name. Gamer and Ganja for life 07. So good to see you as well. All right. Who else do we have in the chat that we can say hello to? A non-user is saying, JB in a very good mood. Going to be a fun show. Absolutely. We gotta keep it fun. That's exactly how we do here. Natalie is saying good afternoon. So good to see you here too.
Who
Paul.
said no? Oh, sorry. I was just looking at the poll. Sorry. Like, what? Okay.
You made me laugh. Paul said corporate media has always sucked. Yes, but we're not talking about corporate media as far as news. We're talking about media as in music, movies, video games. If you guys want to include books in that, we can include books and reading media in that. But that's the type of media we're talking about on this show. So it's going to be a little bit different.
Shebang. All of it. All of it.
Yep. We have Misha saying, I have made it. Looks like we made it. Never would have made it. I'm sorry. Megan says the background, though, purple. Yes. In fact, backstory. So when creating the show, I asked Sabby, I'm like, Sabby, what is your color that you want? She said, pink. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm down. My favorite color actually is orange, but I'm also, cool with blue. So I'm like, okay, let's do a pink and blue background, right? And so then next thing you know, boom, now you got it. So, all right. Oh, Nick said my favorite time of the week. Oh, man.
Oh, wait, Nick's here. I have to pass on a message from Roger Meadows. Nick, Roger Meadows told me to tell you that your state, Missouri, ended up putting one of the ballot options on the ballot for this November, and it's the one about marijuana. And he said you should look this up because it also includes funding for the police. So I'm passing that on.
Oh, shit. Maybe we can talk about that. That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting conversation. I would love to join Nick on that conversation. All right. Good.
Nick's gonna run away now. Watch. Nick's gonna leave the chat now.
Good to see you, Nick. Good to see you, man. All right. Let me see. Zanab is in the chat saying, hey, JB and Sabby, fun time. I need this in my life. So good to see you, Zanab. As always. Natalie says, why are YouTube chats disappearing when I reorient my phone lately? I've
had that happen too. I think it's a bug.
Okay. I don't know, but okay. All right. Robin Ryan is here and says, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
You're the songbird.
No. Corona Ursa says, I feel like quality of music greatly declined, but there have been a few good recent movies. Thank you so much for that as well. Megan Jimenez says, and I dedicate my love to you always. Thank you. Thank you for finishing that part.
That's like my parents' song, man.
I was raised on that stuff. And we both know that our love will grow and forever it will be you and me. And then she goes, hey, oh, yo, I will get down on that song. Karaoke night. Watch me. No, really, watch me. It'll be karaoke night up in here. All right.
Nick said, "Take the compliment."
I'm sorry. Thanks, man. Damn it, JB. Take the damn compliment. Right? Roger Meadows said, Amendment 4 is raising minimum requirement for cop funding for Kansas City Police on a separate initiative put on by voters will be to enshrine into Missouri Constitution to legalize weed. Yes, JB Atlantic Star. Thank you.
That's the name of the group. Yep.
Atlantic Star. My mom still has the album.
Yep, same here.
Yep.
Yeah.
She still has the album. She has the Thriller album. She has the Off the Wall album.
When MJ went from Fro to Jerry Curl.
Yes.
There's a transition there happening.
Yes, she has both. She has Billie Holiday. She has Jennifer Holiday. She has the Temptations, the Four Tops. She has Diana Ross. She has the one with Diana Ross looking all sexy in between the door and the door frame. She's like this. Yep, my mom got a lot of records still.
I grew up on like the Temptation. I probably know every Temptation song because of my parents. Like they love the Temptations.
It was the 3rd of September. Da da
da da. Do do do.
We gotta get started because we can go all day. We can go all night long. All night long. All night. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Now I'm getting into my Fifth Element. When Ruby Rod. Come on, my man. What we gotta do?
Did you see the Temptations movie, JB?
Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis.
Y'all's mama's boys.
Y'all can't get rid of me. I made your asses. They're roughing the Temptations.
I don't know what to say. That movie cracks me up, man. That movie.
Yo, Leon did his thing on playing David Ruffin, man.
Y'all nothing without me.
Y'all nothing without me. Ungrateful asses. They want us because we the voices, and we know they love the voices.
They ain't no Temptation without David Ruffin.
Oh, and then Jackson's An American Dream. Oh, that movie.
That's a good one too.
Marlon, who let the towel in the swimming pool? Marlon. Oh my God. Yo, I'm so glad I'm not high right now. I'd be going nuts right now. So, this stream, as the title suggests, the decline of media, as you can see, there's music, there's movies, there's even video games. And so I put in a poll at the beginning of this, asking the question, do you feel that that there has been pretty much a precipitous decline in these type of mediums, these type of means of entertainment as of late? I have not looked at the poll, but I would like to look at it closer towards the end of the stream, right before we get off, so that we can actually see what everybody's thought is. And I wonder if you can also in the chat, once you get to the end of the stream, has your opinion changed, since, the information that was put out? That's something that I'm actually curious about. And so that's, I would like to get to, see what you guys think about that. Now, Nick has already, basically put a line in the sand. He said, video games are better. Everything else sucks. We'll talk about that. We're going to see if that's really true or not, because I have a couple articles to get into, and then we also have a video to react to. Your opinion, Sabby, before we get into any of the material, what are your thoughts as far as the quality if we can separate into 3 parts at least. Well, you don't really play video games that much, do you?
Sometimes. I mean, I know
Sometimes.
all the popular video games because my husband's like really into that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to see if you can. I shouldn't have assumed that you weren't into video games. That was wrong of me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah. What was that about, JB?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. I'm getting to my the nutty professor. But I want you to do separate opinions based on video games, movies, and music. Do you think that the quality has declined, stayed kind of the same, or gotten better? So let's start off with video games. What is your opinion?
Video games, I would say they have gotten better in reference to what you can do as a player in these games.
Okay.
Meaning that a lot of these games now that you have that have like the open world format, the RPGs, you can do so much more now than you could with video games when I was growing up. Like I had Mario and Tetris. Like you were limited to what you could do with those characters, and with, of course, Tetris. I mean, you're just moving shapes around. But now, video games today, they give you so much more control as a player. Like you can design your own character, like what you want your character to be like. I watched my husband play Final Fantasy VII, the remake. I think there's another Final Fantasy he's playing now. It's only online, I think 14 or something like that. Anyway.
14.
Yeah. All these things that you can do now as a player, it gives you more freedom and more opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But I will say there is still, let's talk about level of difficulty, because I still say till this day, there are a couple of games that I never met anyone that was able to beat these games back in the day and still today. That Ninja Turtles game that was on Nintendo.
Okay, I heard
very difficult to beat. Mike Tyson's Punch Out, still very difficult to beat. I know very few people that beat Tetris. I beat Tetris, but it took me a long time to go all the way through. But I think the difficulty was a lot harder because back then you couldn't save your game. If you died in Super Mario Brothers 3, you just died. You didn't get to start back where you left off. So as time went by, you were able to save these games and hold your place and come back to where you started. But when we were growing up, you couldn't do that. Like, again, you had 3 lives, little Mario. And once you lost those 3, that was it. You had to go all the way back to the beginning and start all over again. So I think the level of difficulty is different now in the sense that you couldn't save your place back then, and now you can. But I will say that, like, I would say giving players more freedom with the characters, I think that was a big plus in reference to video games. In reference to movies, I would say for the most part, it has declined. Now that there are exceptions, like the Marvel movies, I think is an exception. Lord of the Rings, which I love and I can watch all the time, I think is an exception. But when I look at Hollywood overall, I see them doing a lot of remakes. They're remaking movies because they're running out of ideas. I think the quality of the plot line with some of the movies today has also decreased. Like I can predict what's going to happen at the end of the movie before we even get halfway through. So I think Hollywood has become, I don't know if it's a little bit more complacent, or they're relying more so on special effects to really drive the story than the actual like script, like, just the script of the movie. Music 100% has definitely declined. I'm I think, disappointed with new music today. And this is going back a couple of years for me. I'm just very disappointed. I don't feel like the artistry is there anymore. Now it's like anybody can just throw on a beat. You don't really have to have the best voice. You don't really have to be the best performer. I feel like the songs are shorter now. Have you noticed that? Like if you look on Spotify, these songs are like 2 minutes long. And I mean, I remember there was a band, I don't know if people remember this. There was a band called Oasis, and they had a song called Champagne Supernova. That song was like 11 minutes long. Like songs used to be longer, I felt. And I think that now it's like new music today, the lyrics are trash. Like, hey, come on, man. I told you, I heard a song one time and the guy was saying, I'm going to wash those dishes. I'm going to iron those clothes. I'm like, it's not the same. And I think that when you look at artists who are also, I guess, I don't know, I guess like musicians, I feel like there's a decline there too. Like we grew up with people like Prince.
Yeah.
Prince could play like how many different instruments, you know,
Over
like
10.
people like exactly like you don't really see that much today. Like I said, it's just the quality isn't there anymore.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking this is, well, I'm gonna. You guys know RBN. You guys know where we stand on a lot of issues, but I'm going to. You guys are going to know where I'm going with this when I start going through my personal opinions. So, as far as video games go, as far as the quality of them, I feel like video games, in part, on the visual aspects and some of the quality of life aspects of video games, I think they've gotten better. However, microtransactions are a motherfucker. That being said, it means that these companies are constantly trying to squeeze more money out of you. How many of you now who are playing modern video games have to purchase new DLCs, basically downloadable content, in order to be able to complete the game, in order to do better in the game? You're basically paid to play. And I saw a TikTok that was actually talking about why EA, Electronic Arts, is so hated now, because they force you to pay to win instead of your skill to win. See what I mean?
Yep.
So that's one thing about games. As far as movies are concerned, and you touched on a lot of remakes, I think that one of the biggest issues is that movie studios, because they are a major multinational corporation now, they are afraid to take risks because they only want the payout from the sales, the blockbusters.
Yep.
That being said, then they want to go according to what was tried and true, but without realizing that some of the biggest movies of all time, some of the biggest franchises of all time, were actual risks, right? Movies like Star Wars was a risk.
Yep.
Iron Man and the MCU was a risk. Harry Potter was a risk.
Huge one.
Yes, huge risk. Wizards. Lord of the Rings was a risk. Fast and Furious was a risk. A movie about racing? That was a risk. And so all these things that were risks, they had a big payout. But then what a lot of these companies do, because for the sake of profit, y'all know where I'm going with this, is that they're like, okay, we don't want to risk losing money on a major on what we try to do as a major blockbuster. So we're going to go with these same things and keep remaking them over and over and over. And as long as people will pay the money through the nose just to go see them, then that's what they're going to do.
That's right.
As far as music, I agree. There was a video that came out I was watching on YouTube, and one of the things that it actually talked about was that back in the day, families were a lot more music inclined. You have more instruments in the household. Also, a lot of us, and this is more on the fault of a lot of religious organizations, but a lot of us went to church. A lot of us were very religiously inclined. So guess what? We sang a lot. You had a lot of people who were in choirs. Therefore, their hours of practice were a lot better. On top of it, we also had a lot of music programs in school. Kids had to do like mandatory chorus classes, mandatory music classes. So you learned a lot about musicology when you were in school. So those hours and hours of practice that you got from church, from school, from even doing it leisurely at home with your family, you got that hours and hours of practice. So by the time you had a 20-something, 18, 19, 20-something-year-old Aretha Franklin, she can blow you out the water. An 18, 19-year-old Jennifer Holiday, she can blow you out the water. Or even a Luther Vandross. Why? Or even, oh my God. Or even a Freddie Mercury. They could blow you out the water because they had that foundation. That's not apparent anymore. And the music industry really just doesn't care about their artists anymore, which in a video that we'll be reacting to is going to show you in what ways. So that's basically one of the things that I've noticed. And as you all can tell, it's all typically because of one culprit. And what is it that we talk about all the time on this channel? Say it, you know what it is, Sabby.
Capitalism.
Thank you. Bingo. And so because of that, is basically the decline of media is because of a constant pursuit of profit. But what we're going to talk about is the inner workings of it that shows how it's the decline.
That's right.
So ready?
Let's go.
All right. So I have a video here that I'm going to share. Oh, actually, let me check in with Rock. Is anybody chat on Ruffin? No. Okay. So as far as this person, her name is Tiana. She is a leftist on YouTube. She did a video back in February that I watched the entirety of, and I thought it was really interesting. But I also back in February that I watched the entirety of, and I thought it was really interesting. But I also hang on.
Double JBs, triple JBs.
Sorry, I went to the wrong one. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. Because they both start with a D. Okay. Here we go. Sorry. So I'm going to start here, and the title of this video is called "Decommodify." Nobody wants to come to, and this is. Oh wait, let me. Her name is the name of the channel is Fab Socialism.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a really good she does a lot of good video essays about anti-capitalism.
Hi, Holly.
And so hi, Holly. And so if you want to give her a sub, I highly recommend it. Put her video in the description so you can just go straight to her channel and search to her. She's fairly she has a fairly good following. She's at 159,000 subs. So and this got 156,000 views so far, which means it's really good. So but yeah, so I want to get into this, and I want to show you guys. So the first part of my, let me see, to 128. Okay. All right. So I'm going to play this first part, and then I'll, talk about it a little bit.
Child, one thing I will say is that you need to be careful who you sign your name on that dotted line. Too. A lot of people will tell you that when you get signed, you may have this idea about what you want to do, but then your team and the people, powers that be,
they want money. They want to make money.
So first of all, I love, she has this on the beginning of every single video, but it says it's not hypocritical to critique capitalism while participating in it. In fact, we are critiquing capitalism largely because we are forced to participate in it in order to survive. So
that's right.
I love that she puts that in the beginnings of every single video that when she critiques capitalism. So I appreciate that. Anything you want to add, Sabby?
I was just going to say this is very true, because sometimes people will tell us like, oh, well, you guys talk about being anti-capitalist, but you're on YouTube and you make money on YouTube. I'm like, this is the system that we live in. Mm-hmm. We don't live in a socialist country. We don't live in a socialist society. Like, this is what we live in. This is what we, like, unfortunately, in order to survive, we have to participate in it because there is no other option now, right now at this point that's implemented. So I'm glad that she said that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's continue.
Hello, everyone. So, yes, we are going to be talking about decommodifying music. And I feel like music is a good place to start because there are very few people who don't like music. But I also think it's just really important for us to like really give some pieces on capitalism that's not tied explicitly to things that people find boring and people can relate to and see how things that they enjoy have been stifled because of money being the forefront. And also being honest about some of the things that we enjoy that probably without this focus around money would not have been as big today. Who knows what amazing music we would have gotten if music has always been decommodified. We already know now what music we have, that because music is so commodified, what songs were able to come out of that we actually like. Okay. So that's what me and Stephanie are going to try to do today. So
the first part, when she said that we don't know what kind of music would come out if we weren't forced to have it commodified, that was a very interesting point. Like, can you imagine the type of music that we would be introduced to if there wasn't the constraints of you know, the profiteering from corporations?
Right. And I can tell you some of the best music that I've heard has actually been local music, people who are more so still underground that have not signed to a record label, going to some of these local live shows, like these free live music shows around Boston and stuff like that. Some of the best music that I've heard. And it's because they can be their self, their authentic 100% self. They don't have a record company telling them what they can and can't say, and they don't have a record company that is buying their likeness. And that's another whole topic we can get into as well. But you really lose your identity a bit when you sign with those record labels because they own your likeness. If they want to put your face on a lunchbox, they can do that. If they want to tell you that, no, you can't cut your hair, even though you want to get a haircut, guess what? They can do that. So I think that if you really want to hear like really good music, you need to turn to like some of the local artists that are in your area.
Yeah, that was good advice, Sabby. So let me see. So I'm going back into my notes. Let me see. Okay. So I'm gonna move on to this part. Let me see. Okay. So let's go to this part really quick.
I wonder how many people would be interested in music like they are today if they could not use it as a tool to flaunt lavish things and prove that they are better than others. Would it still be important if it wasn't a way to distinguish that they're better than other people?
That question right there. That question. What do you just your thoughts, Sabby, before I say anything?
Well, it reminds me of the fact that we are losing this perception of the struggling artist. It's almost like that doesn't get attention anymore. It's all about these artists that, flaunt expensive clothing, jewelry. They are in commercials, they're in magazines, they're, promoting products, Gucci, like all that kind of stuff. Like what happened to these struggling artists, the people who are not making anything pretty much off of their music, and they're not worried about what they have on or what they're trying to, necessarily promote per se. I feel like that doesn't really exist anymore. And a lot of the music videos, especially coming from some of the ones from the 90s, that's what we saw. Wealth was flaunted, cars, jewelry, women, like you needed to have those things, or you were told you needed to have those things. And they were kind of showing like, this is the lifestyle that we're living right now and promoting that kind of message. So again, I see music promoting capitalism more and more. And the artists that tend to critique capitalism per se are not promoted as much. They're not as popular. They're not selling millions and millions of albums. And so there's a reason for that, I think. And I think that, yeah, capitalism has completely taken over the music industry, all of entertainment.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Let's continue.
Currently, most people who make music want their music to make money so they can live off creating something they are passionate about. However, many of us who have done things we are passionate about quickly can tell you it loses its essence and you start to change your art to mirror what will meet your cost to live. And I do not want any of you to get used to hearing the cost of living because it is absurd and we shouldn't have a cost to live, especially when none of us asked to be here. Okay, so I think many people, of course, would love to make money off their music. The lengths most artists have to go within the music industry to create the music they want to create, like you have to start off doing whatever will make your record deal love and appreciate you and actually give you the time. And then once you've earned that, you're able to make music you want to create. But that's not easy. It's a combination of luck. It's a combination of having the right voice, the right lyrics, having things fall in place. Like, as a YouTuber, like, I can kind of see some parallels to the music industry because, for example, like when you're creating and you have an idea, and if you don't create that idea fast enough or you put that idea on the back burner and you see it pop off and blow up for someone else, you're thinking like, damn, I could have had that career. I could have had that trajectory if I would have just did my idea the right way. But that's not always the case, but you have to live with that uncertainty and never knowing. And I can imagine how so many musicians have that similar thing. Oh, I passed up on that song that became huge for somebody else. That could have been me. But maybe it could have never been you. Maybe it had to be that artist doing that song the way they did. And those who win never really have to grapple with the what ifs like those who lose.
Somebody on my team.
Okay, so what are your thoughts about that last point?
I want to comment on something she said about people passing up on opportunities. Christina Milian is a great example of this. The song that really, I guess, pretty much made Rihanna popular, going back to the beginning, the SOS song really put Rihanna on the map. That song was actually for Christina Milian. By the way, there's a lot of stealing that goes on in the music industry. That's a whole other discussion. But Christina Milian decided to pass it up. They gave that song to Rihanna, and Rihanna blew up and has been blowing up ever since then. And so Christina Milian said in the interview that she felt bad. She looks back on it now and said, maybe that could have been my music career, the one that Rihanna has, if I wouldn't have turned that song down. But maybe and maybe not. Maybe that song wasn't meant for her. Maybe she knew that, and that's why she turned it down. But you see, like, the people who are willing to, I guess, bend to the record companies like Will or whatever, even if they may not agree with everything, they're usually the ones that tend to blow up, at least nowadays. To something she said, though, about people getting to a certain level and then they can do what they want to do. I would give an exception to that, and that was Prince. Prince got to that level and he still had to fight with the record company. So Prince changed his name so that he could create what he wanted to create. So even in that case, again, when you're bound to these contracts, there are limitations on what you can and cannot do, and you lose some of that creative control. I just saw recently on Twitter, Khalees, the woman who sings the Milkshake song, Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard. She actually put out a little video on Twitter blaming Beyonce for stealing her music. So there's a lot of this that goes around, and I think the music industry, they decide early on who they are going to make really big, who they're going to promote, and who they're going to suppress. And people like someone like Beyonce, you look at the way that she looks, that's someone that's going to get promoted. Her dad talked about this as well. He said that if Beyonce was a darker skinned woman, she would not have the success that she has today. So that's just a reality. There's colorism. Keke Palmer has talked about this recently. But they have their picks. They decide who they're going to make really big, and it's usually the people that they know that they can somewhat in some way, shape, or form control. Once those artists start to try to break free from that control and want to do their own thing, what do? The media, the mainstream media comes in and they smear them. That's what happened with Britney Spears. That's what happened with people like Eminem. That's what happened with Whitney Houston. Like, that's the thing. As long as you let them control you and you are the robot, then they'll keep pumping you up. But once you try to fight back, that's when they start to smear you and try to ruin your career.
Yeah. So you actually touched on something that I want to go to. Let me see, 617. So I'm going to go to, wait. Let me see, scroll. Bam, here we go. So this is going to be an artist talking about how the music industry works. And this is going to be very interesting because this goes into basically what you were saying, Sabby. Now, before I do that, I'm going to cover a couple of super chats, if that okay? Okay. I don't want them to sit too long. Super chat from David Bryan says, yo, it's my birthday. Can I get a happy birthday from JB and Sabby? Happy birthday, David Bryan.
Happy birthday.
Yo, yeah. Whoop, whoop. All right. All right. Solidarity and happy birthday to you. Steve Wolfbrand says, Venezuela under socialism has a music program that gives free instruments and lessons to poor kids. The results is incredible music. Just saying. Wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Donal says, the Coen brothers, Barton Fink, nailed how studio systems in particular take your identity and hijack your career path.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you so very much for that. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and we're going to show this. This is actually quite revealing, so be prepared.
Do you have a 401k?
You want me to explain to you what hip hop is?
That's what I'm trying to
Let me
get
explain to you what hip hop is. The worst loan you could ever make. When you sign to a major label, that money that they give you, let's say they give you $800,000, right? That's a loan. You have to pay back that loan with interest. So if you don't make back that $800,000, what they do is they put you in the red, but you can still be hot, and you didn't make back that $800,000. So you can still be hot. So they'll give you another album, and they'll give you instead of $800,000, they'll give you 1.2 this time, right? So now, but you're still in the hole for that 800. You understand? But now you got another 1.2, and if you don't make that, then you're just in the red for both. And this is a loan with interest that you don't get nothing out of. Hip hop is not meant for the artist to win. It's never been meant for the artist to win. And the more and more you learn, the more and more you read your contracts, the more and more it's disturbing.
He said hip hop is never meant for the artist to win. Sabby, your thoughts?
That's 100% true. This is exactly why you'll see some artists go on and do other ventures. This is why you'll see them do acting or start a clothing brand or start like some other product or other business on the side, because this is actually why artists like TLC went bankrupt. Because yes, the record company will give you a lot of money up front, but you have to give that money back to them. So while you're dancing on stage tirelessly all these different nights and you're selling all these albums, if you don't carefully read those contracts, you'll basically see the artist is the least paid. They're basically a slave to the record companies. The record companies and the lawyers and everybody else that's tied in, they're making a lot of money and you're doing all the work. So this is why tours are very important. This is why a lot of artists go on tours so they can actually make the money. So a lot of artists where they make that money for themselves is when they go on tour. Same thing. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say same thing happened with New Edition. This is why till this day, New Edition still has to tour, because they were ripped off by the record company and they were selling all these albums, but the record company was taking all the money. They were giving them like $1 checks, you guys, and they were selling all those albums. So what you got to understand, most of the time, the performer is making the least. The people who own the record company and the people who are like the managers and the agents, those people and the lawyers, they're the ones that are making most of the money.
And even then, touring is not actually as profitable for them as people think. And it actually gets into that in this video too. So it's going to be interesting. because you're gonna realize, about music artists, about what they go through. Let me continue this really quick.
Artist contract, it was made for the artist to be. It was not made for the artist. It was made for the artist to always have to need the record label. Because let's suppose you juried out. You got that 800. Remember I said 800 for the first album. You got that 800. You spent 400 immediately, and then you spent 400 on jury, and then you got all your show money.
Right.
You went and got a house, and you went and got cars, and went and got moms. But now you got to live up to that. Now you are 800.
Because they have to keep up a certain appearance. That's why. Especially in hip hop, you have to keep up a certain appearance. So this is, and when he says 800, he's talking about $800,000. And he said you spend about $400,000 trying to get the cars, the jewelry, and all that stuff, just so that you can keep up that appearance.
Yep.
So that you can keep up that facade of, being rich and good and successful. So.
And they may not always necessarily own those houses either. Sometimes some of those artists are renting those homes just to keep up appearance. They don't necessarily own the house.
Mm-hmm. And the cars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And the cars.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's continue.
$100,000 dude a year. You got to have that. So now you go 1.2. Most people would dumb it down. But they want to wear Gucci.
Right.
They want to wear Louis.
Right.
They want to have a,
Right.
So what are you getting in that deal then? Right? If you're given 800 and then 1.2, is it just the platform? Are you put in the red just for the platform, just for all of those things?
See, I can't
Or do you
generalize
retain
it
anything?
because there's different things.
So there's a general assumption that the music industry is problematic, but there's always questions on why, how did we get here to where what is a universal good, that being music, has been turned into a problematic industry full of unscrupulous people, predatory boosters, and overall rife with racism, colorism, and all of that. You can't talk about commodification of music without talking about where the commodification is actually written down. What's the legal instrument into which all of these artists have been bamboozled and led astray? And that's the contract. Before we get into the specifics of a music contract, it's helpful to know what exactly is agreed upon in every music contract, in a record label deal. First, you'll have royalties. Royalties are the amounts that the artist is owed based off of how many times their song is played. Back in the day, before we had allegedly racist Spotify, Pandora, and the like, we used to have CDs. We used to have CDs, and an artist would get paid off of the royalty of each CD. People don't buy CDs anymore, I don't think. However, the royalties there were pretty easy to calculate. There's a very obnoxious mathematical equation on the screen that you can see for yourself.
And then you have the consumer who with $10 to $20 a month can have access to endless music. Though the
So basically it's in the contracts, and it's kind of funny because it's kind of similar to what Dave Chappelle talked about in one of his comedy special, where he actually talked about being tied down by Comedy Central. I'm not sure if did you see that special?
Yep.
Okay. And so it talked about how they had him so tied down to a contract, and they basically took advantage of him because he was a young man in his 20s. And so think about these industries like Ursula the Sea Witch and Ariel the Little Mermaid. Okay. And a lot of us who were kids, that feeling of injustice because somebody was taken advantage of. Well, this is happening all the time. Steven says, you want to be a singer-songwriter, but don't know you also had to be an attorney, a marketing executive, and a public relations agency also.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You have to know all those things. Unfortunately, a lot of new artists, especially those who don't know the business, they're so excited to get signed. They don't even read the contract. They don't even know what they're really getting themselves into.
Yeah,
it's happened with a lot of people. You pretty much, the record company pretty much owns you. Like, let's say you made an album 2 years ago. Now the record company says, all right, we're working on your next album. Let's say you don't want to make an album right now. What does your contract say? You see what I mean? Does your contract say you got to put out an album every 2 to 3 years? See, some people don't know that. So it's just like I saw some of this as well. I think with making the band, listen, I got a lot of criticism for Puff Daddy for that show, that crazy show. But one of the artists from Danity Kane came forward in an interview and said that the reason why she had to completely walk away is because it got to the point where she couldn't even decide what she wanted to do with her own body. Like she went out, I guess she got a little nip tuck thingy, whatever, plastic surgery, and got criticized by the record company for doing it and saying, you have to ask for permission to change your appearance. See, that's the thing. Like, they own you.
Makes you wonder about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, a lot of people that are not, like, don't have their own independent label that are under this, and not just musicians. You have like actresses and actors that go through it too. Some of them that are on like these TV shows and they're known as a certain character may have to get permission if they want to make changes about their physical appearance. And that's unfortunate. But again, what does the contract say?
Yeah, definitely. And so that just goes into, you know, what it was talking about, referring to as what I like to call the predatory lending of the music industry. Wait.
He's making fun of making the band. Die long, die long, die long, die long. Yep.
Okay. All right. I didn't watch it that much, so.
Oh, it's hilarious, JB. You should go back and watch that.
Okay. I know Dave Chappelle did a skit on his show making fun of it. So, yeah, when he had when he had security guards, you know, carry him out of the room. That was funny.
And we can talk about how women are treated in the music industry too, because women really like, and I've heard this from several like female artists, like Jessica Simpson is a good example. They tried to sexualize Jessica Simpson. She was just a teenage girl. And she said, no, like, I don't feel comfortable dressing that way. Now she changed as she got older, but she didn't feel comfortable. And they said, well, no, this is the image that you have to have. This is what is popular right now. So it's just, again, like I said, like, you really belong to them.
Well, I mean, look at Britney Spears when she first came out, when she did Hit Me Baby One More Time. I mean, she was literally 16, 17 years old.
Yep.
Literally. Like, so, of course, they did that. They did that to women, and I mean, they did it to male artists too. Look at B2K. They were 15, 16-year-old boys, and they had to come out there shirtless all the time.
Yep. There's a lot of things that have gone on behind the scenes, like especially with some of these programs we grew up with, like Mickey Mouse Club and Kids Incorporated, where a lot of these people that you knew later on as pop stars, like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, they were trying to sexualize them at a young age.
Yeah. And that's the sad part about it. So let me see. They're talking about streaming. That's not what I wanted to go to. She talks about appropriation a little bit. And that also kind of goes into that. But at the same time, there's some parts where there's some songs that are being played where they rip songs from different cultures. Yeah, Soul says, yes, Nickelodeon as well. Yeah, they did a lot of that. But they play some of the songs, and I don't want us to get a copyright strike for the music that's being played. But a lot of the songs that were sampled were actually ripped from certain music from different cultures. And it's not just like white artists that did it. It was black artists. Like Timberland did it a lot. He would basically appropriate from a lot of, you know, Indian cultures into his music to make money off of.
Jay-Z too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he wrote the music for it. He did some of the producing for Jay-Z. So yeah, it was, you know, a lot of appropriation going on as well in the music industry. But let me see.
That's the touring one.
Yeah. So this is the one I want to get to. And it's going to touch on some of the things that you were talking about as well. And so let's get into that really quick. So this is going to be interesting.
Now we're going to go into touring examples.
The assumption is that most artists don't actually make money from their music. However, they mostly make money from touring. So when they get up on stage, do a little two-step, rap for you, sing for you, that's when the cash is coming in. However, it's not always that way. Case in point, let's go back to a case I did over a year ago about Migos and how they sued their lawyer once they realized their lawyer was unscrupulously and allegedly representing both Migos as well as their management. AKA their lawyer decided, you know what? Let's double the fees for me. Rather than draft the agreement the parties included, Greenwich drafted the operating agreement in such a way to provide wire and effectively was granted a perpetual, here goes to perpetual again, exclusive license to distribute Migos branded merchandise. Perpetuity means forever. Exclusive means it's just you and that person. Non-exclusive means you can see other people. In the context of a business relationship, you should definitely want to see other people. Granderson then negotiated to have Migos enter into a licensing agreement with Bravado International Group Merchandising Services that granted Bravado rights to sell merchandise that overlapped with the rights erroneously granted to Design Studio LLC. So basically what they're saying is their attorney drafted them this agreement when it should have been non-exclusive because, of course, with merchandising rights, you want whoever has the best price should be the winner. So if so-and-so sells hats for 9 cents and the other person sells hats for 7 cents, obviously you want to make more profit. You're going with the person that makes the hats for 7 cents. Same quality, what's the difference? And then you want, somebody else to make the shirts and whatever have you. By saying that the license was perpetual and exclusive, they were stuck with Design Studio. They then alleged that the attorney went and found another merchandising company and was like, oh yeah, let's enter into agreement too. That's not how exclusivity works. Exclusive means me and you till death do us part. We are exclusive. This is why I'll get into arguments with people, not understanding what exclusivity means. We are exclusive, so that means ain't nobody else. You can't enter into these other contracts. By entering these other contracts, then Migos got sued by the person they were supposed to be exclusive with. Coming back to the present day, what's interesting about that case is their attorney never appeared in court. The case actually eventually was dropped because they could never properly serve the attorney. That's a strategy. That's definitely a duck and dodge strategy. When you legally ghost someone, that's a level of hubris the world has rarely seen.
So this article from the Socialist Revolution that talks about music and the decline of capitalism, it really humbles people on the whole, well, artists are touring nowadays to make money, so it's okay. People use it as like, oh, like artists aren't really making money from their music. They have to tour to make music. Go do it. You'll make your money, right? But it's actually not okay. Some people assert that artists should instead support themselves by touring endlessly. However, there are several aspects to this argument that expose it is not ideal. The price of an average concert ticket increased by 400% between 1981 and 2012, as compared
to 400% increase in ticket sales.
I believe it. I believe it.
My mama said that she could see the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Marvelettes, and all these other different groups for $5 at the mall, and she'll get a 2-hour show. Back in the 60s. And
yeah.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say same thing. My grandparents said the same thing. It's not, and then they changed all that. Like now, just to see one of those acts, you're looking at, I don't know, probably the cheapest ticket is like what, maybe $80, maybe.
That's nosebleeds. $80. It's crazy. Yeah, Danny. $5. Yup, $5. Back in the 60s. You can see all them groups in the 60s for that much. Crazy how things changed.
Compared to 150% rise in overall consumer prices. In other words, average people can't afford to attend as many concerts in the past. Like the decline of our economy, despite people on the news being very false about it, many of us cannot afford concerts. And that's why like these festivals are getting more and more dangerous because they're trying to keep the cost cheap, but also having lots of people there. And it is a recipe for disaster. Every time I see concert tickets and prices, I'm like, I can't afford this because...
Sabby, you wanted to comment?
I got to comment on that because I'm a big festival person. I mean, I've never been to like Coachella per se, but like we have a lot of music like festivals and stuff here. And I will say it does get dangerous. Like I've gone to Boston Calling a couple of times. They'll usually have a couple of big name acts and then like, you know, acts that are less known also each day. So it's a 3-day festival.
Yeah.
Here's what happens if you don't, if you're not in control of yourself. And I just have to say it that way. Obviously, like there's alcohol, there's drugs, even though there's not supposed to be, but there is. But there's also food. And a lot of times what I've seen with a lot of the younger people, I mean, it's hot out. This is during the summer. They'll show up, not really interested in the food per se. They just want to get smashed. Well, of course, the bigger name artists usually are last. So these festivals will start like 10 o'clock in the morning. They'll go all day long. And then the big act, which most people really came there for, is at the end that night. By that time, if you've been there since 10 o'clock in the morning, you've been drinking all day, that's when people start to get a little shit-faced and a little out of control and stuff like that. But yes, those music festivals have become more and more popular because you can pay $99 for one day at Boston Calling and you can see like 15 bands. So it's like you have to know how to pace yourself, I would say. Also, you are in the heat a lot of times at these events. I've heard about some of the things that's happened at like Coachella and stuff like that. But a lot of people will rather go to that because they get more for their money versus you paying $100 to see one artist. You get to pay like $100 to see like 10 different people.
Makes a lot of sense. I wanted to go to EDC that's held here in Orlando. I think it's every November, but I can never afford it because I'm just, I'm on a fixed income. I'm broke. So I really want to go, but I can never go. And I've only been to one concert in my life. And that's because a friend actually had an extra ticket and she brought me with her. But outside of that, for a famous artist, I've never been to a concert outside of that because I just can't afford to ever go. And my mom used to go to concerts all the time when she was young because she can afford it because they were actually cheaper. So, but yeah, thank you so much for that insight, Sabby.
First of all, sometimes I don't want to be in general admission. I would like to have a seat, I don't want to be squished up on people, having people rub up on my body. And I should be able to have that option and it not cost me $1,000. The top 5% of concert performers take home nearly 90% of concert revenues. The lengths to which those in this strata go to remain successful is increasingly relentless. And again, think of your girl Beyonce, the hugest person who makes like the most revenue touring. That's not easy on her. That's a lot that she has to keep up. And it's only projected to get bigger and better. And that's more exhausting for the individual. The profit margins are just spectacular. The band fees are triple, quadruple, even quintuple that of a regular gig. Every artist I've spoken to, they'd say that they wish that it didn't have to be this way and they didn't have to survive off their music like this.
Can we just do it again without the negative saying that you don't like the tour?
I don't like it though.
I know, but
I go through hell.
Setting up though? I don't know.
I go through hell touring. Okay, then I'll make it positive then.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, you know the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And action, Michael.
I love to tour. You guys messed up.
Even Michael Jackson. I've seen this like 3 or 4 times before I saw this. I saw this a few times already. What do you think, Sabby?
I just want to add, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I was kind of surprised because Michael Jackson's concerts were like phenomenal. But I will add that like it's very tiring on your body when you're on tour, because imagine like if you look at an artist's tour schedule, imagine you see them Friday night in your city, the next night they're in a different city in your state, then the next night they're in such and such. And so just imagine all the dancing. NSYNC used to do flips like on the stage during their tours. Like imagine doing that every single night. So you can't afford to have any member get sick and you're traveling all the time. on a bus. Yeah, the tour buses are pretty nice, but you're still on a bus traveling all the time. You're probably not eating healthy because you're on the road. How many of us eat really healthy when we're traveling on the road? So I think that it's got to be wearing like on your body. And that's only if you're doing a tour in the United States. That doesn't include if you're doing an international tour where you're going overseas and you're doing those tours as well. It's very tiring. And as you get older, it has to put some type of a strain on your body. If you really think about it. So some of these artists that tour every single year where they're touring for like a couple months, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. And even then, think about Prince when he used to perform on stage all the time. I mean, that had, when he had to jump off of a amp and then do a split, imagine how much wear and tear on his knees, on his hips that it happened. And so no wonder why he was on opiates, towards the end
Same
of his life.
Same thing with MJ. Maybe that's why he was on because eventually your body is going to give out, right? Like it has to be tiring. It has to be exhausting. I couldn't imagine doing that every single night. Guys, that's like going to the club. Imagine you're going to the club with your friends back in the day when I used to go clubbing. Imagine going to the club with your friends and you are dancing and singing the entire time every night for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said he goes through hell touring. Gosh.
It's got to be hard on your body. Just think about all the things MJ used to do on stage, I mean, and you're right. Prince used to do splits like on the stage, like.
Yeah. And think Michael Jackson started when he was like 9. He's been doing this since he was 9.
And if you do something one night at one show, the next show you go to, guess what? Because people talk to each other, they're going to expect to see that same type of a performance.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's continue.
Just say. Why you all start laughing? I'm ready to get into it.
Another problem is that more and more live music venues are closing due to rising property prices and now the pandemic, because this article was written before the pandemic. In 2015, The Guardian reported on a recent study conducted by Help Musicians UK indicated that more than 60% of touring musicians have suffered from psychological ailments. The situation is even more difficult for DJs due to touring speeds. This is why so many musicians become alcoholics and addicts and eventually die. If you look at the mortality rates of people who tour, it is an incredibly dangerous profession. People die really young. In the United States, at least, this risk is also even worsened because this country has really horrible healthcare. Some artists start off heavily addicted to drugs, and touring can only increase that. And the psychological parts of fame. Even as a YouTuber, again, there's parallels because you're not supposed to consume so many thoughts of people. You're not supposed to consume all these numbers of people viewing you. That affects your sanity if you're not actively combating it. I take so many social media breaks, and those social media breaks are not conducive to my income. That only hurts me. And I have to make that sacrifice, because I'd rather be sane than to have a stable income off of YouTube, which is why I hope I get a job soon.
I just want to add, go ahead, JB.
Mm-hmm. No, I go ahead.
I just want to add something to what she was just saying there. I would say as a performer, entertainer, if you're touring, you're on the road, you have to be on every night. Like you have to be on physically, emotionally. If you made people cry the night before, you got to make people cry the next night too. You have to be on every single night. You have to entertain people for months in a row. That can be stressful. It can be draining. I can see how it can affect them on a mental level, but you always have to be on. Can you imagine what that feels like?
I can't. And so she talks about how and there's a part in the video where they actually touch on TLC, where they're talking about how they were broke and how, because of the contracts, they didn't make a dime, even though they were the best selling female group at the time in the 90s.
And they also had expensive music videos too. Waterfalls was an expensive music video. And at the time, again, they didn't realize, that was coming out of their budget.
Yeah. But so you have, the predatory lending by the music industry for artists. Artists continuously have to try to live up to a certain a standard of living, either that they perpetuate or that they need in order to be able to continue. And so they need these companies instead of being able to have, their own and create their own music and being able to make the money off of their own labor. So that's something that, and I've seen the decline in music because music companies now are basically, there's an automation aspect of it too, because now they don't have to have all that practice. Because pretty much you have to be aesthetically pleasing. And if your voice is so, then all right, put them in a booth and then we can work on them. And not even work on them like Motown used to do, where they actually train people. No, work on them basically meaning digitally and try to make the music sound good. But then once they get out there and start touring and you hear their actual voice, they sound like crap. Because they really didn't have the time to really condition themselves.
Yeah,
Because
I wanted to.
Okay,
Go ahead. I just wanted to put this out to make you laugh. Roman Smith said Nancy Reagan killed Prince.
What? What does that mean? What does that mean, though?
Roman, why? Why'd you say that, Roman?
Please explain. So, I don't want to miss these other articles as well. But as far as music, because the music part took a while. This is in regards to movies. So this article says, it says VFX artists refusing to work with Marvel due to stress and overwork. They are a horrible client. And so it says they're talking about that they're overworked and have to face unmanageable deadlines. Okay. So this person, I don't want to mispronounce their name, but this person with the last name Govel says they're a horrible client, and I've seen way too many colleagues break down after being overworked while Marvel tightens the purse strings. And so this person actually said a tweet says, working on Marvel shows is what pushed me to leave the VFX industry, the virtual effects. They are a horrible client, and I've seen too many colleagues break down and being overworked while Marvel tightens their purse strings. And it says this has been the case since the earliest days of the MCU. It didn't start recently, and it's not because of Disney CEO Bob Chapek. The issue is Marvel is too big and can demand whatever they want. It is a toxic relationship. And they said Marvel has probably the worst methodology of production and VFX management out there. The artists working on Marvel shows are definitely not paid equivalent to the amount of work they put in. Sabby, your thoughts?
I would say, I guess I'm not surprised as well either, but I will say I can only imagine the stress that some of those actors must have had to maintain the figure that they have to fit into those suits.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, for example, like Scarlett Johansson said she was actually, I guess, glad when her part from the MCU ended, because she said like she wanted to eat regular food and didn't want to exercise every day. That's what Scarlett Johansson said that. Can you imagine, like, Chris Evans as Captain America? He couldn't really afford to have any, you can't have any flab anywhere. Like, you really have to maintain that shape the entire time just to fit into the suit.
Yeah. And then on top of it, I mean, you think about the tons of hours 12, 13, 14-hour days where a lot of these people, and especially the people who are in the crew, not just the people who are behind the cameras, but the lighting people, the stunt artists and the people who are, who are the assistants, who are basically the people who you don't really see, that when we watch the credits roll, we don't pay attention to those names.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are overworked. Some of them are underpaid. Sometimes different studios will use non-union crews in order to save money so that they can make more money for those movies. Goth says production crew, that was me. Yeah. So they don't make that much. And then you also have the VFX artists that are also being stiff because Marvel puts out they put out what's it called? Sorry, my brain is kind of fried. They put out a bid, and whatever company wins, then it's basically the cheapest one that wins. And so once that wins, then it basically means that the VFX artists get underpaid.
And then there's a certain image that you have to uphold too. I think I actually just watched a documentary recently on Netflix about J-Lo, and she was talking about her time in Hollywood. Well, she talked about her career period, but she was talking about never being taken seriously as an actress, even though her movies were blockbuster hits, Made in Manhattan. The wedding planner, her movies were doing very well, but she said it was really hurtful to her because every time she saw the reviews, it was just always that she shouldn't be taken seriously. And she really felt it was that way because of the fact that she was Latina, because she was a former, fly girl dancer on A Living Color. And she said that she just felt like she was constantly trying to prove to the critics that she actually was good at her craft.
Yeah. I'm going to address something really quick before I move on. Yes, I feel sorry for people who are laborers who get taken advantage of. Yes, I do. I feel sorry for anybody who puts labor and then they actually have to put themselves through a lot. And I'm not just talking about the people who are in front of the screen or the people who have the microphone on them. I'm also talking to people who are behind the scenes that are typically have to, put out way more than what their labor is. And then on top of it, a lot of times they don't get paid either a living wage or they have to work long ass hours, just in order to be able to feed their families, and they don't make enough. Or if they do, but they don't have enough time to be with their families because they're working so much, they're overworked. And so, yes, I do feel sorry for some of these people. So just letting you know, they are also laborers and they are victims of the system as well. And so it continues with the VFX artists as well. This article is also in the description for people who want to see about that. I mean, look what happened with Alec Baldwin. I mean, they used non-union people to finish up the movie, and then somebody ended up getting killed. So I'm just saying.
Did we get this one, JB?
Martin says music industry, like all capitalist industries, is notorious for ripping artists off. True. Absolutely. Did you have anything else to say before I go to the game developers?
Oh yeah, I'll address this really quick from Danny. Sabs, what's your take on the rebuttal that record companies suffer financial losses on the overwhelmingly majority of newly signed artists, and only very few newly signed artists become megastars? They make it back. The record companies, they make that money back. They already know that most of the newly signed artists are not going to go on to be big, huge stars, but they make that money back in other ways, I will say things are definitely different now because you have like Spotify and Apple Music and things like that. It was easier to track production and sales when we had CDs, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that was also a really good question too. So make sure this okay. So let me go to this because I want to make sure I fit this in too. This one is in regards to video games too. Yes, video games too. So this is an article says, are most game developers still dealing with crunch time and overwork? This came out earlier this year. And it says crunch time, quote unquote, crunch time remains an endemic problem in the software development world, despite companies' very public attempts to squish the practice. Video game development has a particularly bad reputation as an arena in which technologists can put in 100-hour weeks to ship a game by a certain deadline. And so it really talks about how, these game developers are constantly under this huge amount of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And it's gotten worse over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard stories about like EA, for example, EA games. I've heard stories about people who have worked for EA games, how horrible it is.
Yeah. And then on top of it, you have a lot of these, game developers. Some of them, a lot of them aren't unionized.
Yep. Ooh,
so,
that'll be a good one.
Yeah. They're not unionized. And I think, honestly, that, as somebody who's a socialist, I honestly think, what if game developers actually owned the company that they did game developing for? Like, what would the quality of the games be if you could actually do that?
But you know what, JB, this has been going on for a long time because I saw a video game documentary on Netflix where they went through the history of video games. They're going all the way back to Atari and all that fun stuff. And the guy who actually was the developer for the E.T. Nintendo game, which actually ended up sucking really bad, he said in that documentary, the reason why it wasn't good was because the pressure put on him by the company to get it out and get it out fast. Because it was supposed to, I guess, coincide with the movie like E.T. So like, okay, let's go ahead and get this out now. So he stayed up like night after night, like not sleeping, just to hurry up and get it finished and to drop it off. And then, of course, it tanked in reference to sales. But that pressure, from what I gathered from that documentary, has always been there.
Yeah. Just to address natural law, is this their passion though? Are they really working? Yes, they are really working because they're actually doing the labor. They are working, number one. Number two, just because it's your passion doesn't mean that, you still can't get, proper work-life balance. You're not entitled to a work-life balance. And it doesn't mean that you're not entitled to actual, a living wage. Therefore, like for instance, I went to school for cooking because I really like cooking, but I don't want to have to cook constantly under duress.
Right.
By that being said, people should not have to do their passion, under duress. Yes, it is still work. Just because you like it doesn't mean that it's still not work. Just because it's just like somebody who loves to run. Yes, they love to run, but it's still work. See what I mean? So that by that being said, then they still deserve a living wage. They still deserve a good work-life balance, and they still deserve to also have a say over how the company operates and the power that they have within the company as a laborer. See, Goss says, "Yep, JB, you end up hating the passion you love because of overwork." Thank you,
That's
God.
right. That's
Perfectly
right.
said. So yeah,
I've had that happen as well.
yeah.
I just want to answer, shout out this from Roger Meadows. Also, Sabrina, you'll also see conscious artists like KRS, Public Enemy go overseas where they are more appreciated. Matter of fact, David Hasselhoff, Knight Rider, my bad, you are 90s Baywatch, went to Germany. Yeah, I know. Like David Hasselhoff is actually those kind of artists overseas, they're huge.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Tina Turner's huge in Europe.
Oh, Tina Turner left the country. Tina Turner moved to Switzerland and became a citizen there, which is actually really difficult to do, to become like a citizen of Switzerland, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of them, they end up leaving the country and they become, bigger artists over there. And also Roger Meadows, just to let you know, I watched Knight Rider religiously when I was young. So yeah, I got you. Yes, I want to get up in the Night Industries 2000 aka Kit and ride.
Yeah.
And I want to get into super pursuit mode and go up past 300 miles an hour in that car. Oh,
yeah.
I love that part. That was so awesome.
We both have seen Knight Rider.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, so as far as the issues regarding media and have they declined, I would say overall, yes, they have. And anybody in the chat, did your opinion change or is it still the same? Or, what are your thoughts, by the way? And while you answer that, I'm going to look at the poll.
Poll time.
Stop. Poll time.
3 JBs.
3 JBs, baby. So the question is, the overall quality of music videos, the video games has declined as of late. Oh, I made it too big. 92% said true. 8% said false. So I guess that we're preaching to the choir in this one, Sabs.
I guess so.
Yeah. But that's interesting though, how it's, diminished in that way. So Sabby, what do you have going on your show this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? Y'all better make sure y'all go over to Sabby Sabs at 8 o'clock. What you got going on?
I have a guest coming on tonight who is going to talk about something. I don't want to give the story away, but something that happened at his job, at his employer. So you'll definitely want to hear that story and how it affected him financially. So we're always supporting workers' rights here. So he's going to come on and talk about that. I'm also going to discuss Bernie Sanders stalling on the Joe Biden issue in reference to 2024 and continuing to have Democrat Party talking points. And of course, I'm also going to discuss this whole rift that happened between Jimmy Dore and Nina Turner. I think I'm going to do a little quick call-in segment after the show tonight. I don't usually do that on Thursdays, but I want to get you guys' opinion about that battle that's going on Twitter between Jimmy Dore and Nina Turner. But I'm going to talk about this presenting both sides, which I don't know if that's been done yet, but I'm going to talk about it from both sides. But hopefully by the end of tonight, we can actually, just come to a better place, I think, in left space, because I don't feel like we're really getting anywhere. But I'll go into all that tonight.
Okay. Well, make sure to catch Sabby in about 30 minutes. Make sure you guys go over to her channel to check that out. And as for me, of course, news will be covered this Sunday, and I'll be getting to my reading of Dirty Truths by Michael Parenti, as well as Blood in My Eye by George Jackson on my channel. Next Tuesday, I should be having CJ on my show to talk about him, and how he is navigating this space and encouraging people to come into the space more. Also, next Saturday, you can catch me on a special show on my channel where I will be speaking with the Bank Sisters, and we'll be talking about Camp Nada.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes. So I'm excited. You know, Courtney and Keisha are going to join me, and we're going to be talking about camping, something I've never done before. But I cannot wait to have this conversation about that and Camp Data so that we can push that forward so we can, you know, do more direct action out there to get more awareness to the people. Anything else that I need to add, my sister?
Nobody, nope. Oh, check out Fault Lines on Rumble. Check out the show Fault Lines. I was on there this week. So check that out. I was on there Wednesday morning with Jamal Thomas and Manila. So definitely check that out. That was a good discussion.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Please make sure to click that like if you haven't clicked the like yet. I know where y'all live, and I'm gonna go to you, and I'm just gonna look at you. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna stare at you, and it's gonna weird you guys out. JB, why are you staring at me? I'm just gonna be like this. And then, if you're not subscribed, why aren't you subscribed? Because we care about you. Subscribe. And also thanks to anybody and everybody who's been subscribed to our Patreon as well. It is officially time for us to go Sabby Jaybe. Go Sabby Jaybe.